I experienced a lot of trauma in my life, and that trauma has caused me to go numb. Throughout my life, I experienced quite a bit of trauma at such a young age, and that's not even including the military stuff. The military stuff obviously was probably the most significant, but I've endured quite a bit of trauma as far as people dying, whether it's suicide, to war, terrible car accidents. Quite a few people that I've been close to have died. And to deal with that, I shut myself off to the world. I shut myself off to everybody. I shut myself off to my own emotions. And over time, shutting myself off to my emotions has caused me to go numb. I first noticed it after Afghanistan. After my 2 deployments to Afghanistan, I became an instructor for a Special Forces course. And I didn't know how deep it was that I had become numb and shut myself off to the world until I first started having kids. And my first kid, there's an incident where, and I remember this distinctively, and I'll never forget this feeling. I felt terrible when it happened. But when my oldest son, he was bawling. He was crying hysterically. I don't know if he got hurt. I don't know if he was just colicky or, just upset. But I remember he was very upset one day. And I tried to be present with my kids. I tried to take care of all their needs when they're young, especially when it came to crying, needing a bottle, diaper. Like, I was there for everything. And I tried to take care of them the best I could, always. But there was one time where he wouldn't stop crying. And he was young, a couple months old, and I was holding him. And I remember this. I was holding them. I was trying to soothe them. And nothing was working. And I became frustrated because nothing was working. The things that normally worked weren't working. My wife at the time, she got upset, and then she eventually came and took the baby away from me, took my son away from me, and I was even more frustrated. I felt like I wasn't doing my job as a dad. I felt helpless, and when she took him, she was frustrated, and she said, "You're not comforting him. What are you doing?" And I was confused. I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm holding him, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Normally it works." And she's like, "Where are you at? You're not even here." And I was confused and didn't register at the time, but she was right. I was just the shell of a person, and I actually wasn't comforting him. And it got to the point, it got so bad, and it's happened for years. It got so bad where I was just a shell of a person for years that I forgot how to even cry. It had been years since I've cried, because I was used to shutting down my emotions, didn't want to feel any emotions, couldn't feel any emotions, because it's a sign of weakness in my mind. And you can't have any signs of weakness, can't be vulnerable. And that's when it dawned on me, and that's when it first dawned on me that this wasn't normal, that I needed to stop. But it wasn't until years later until I actually realized how to fix it. So that was the first time I noticed that I was a shell of a person, that I didn't know how to feel the feelings, and that other people could see it, that other people could notice it, especially her. Obviously, I married her. I was living with her and stuff, so she obviously knew me better than anyone else at that time, and that hurt. When she told me I didn't know how to comfort my son, that hurt bad. And then years later, going through my depression, anxiety. It wasn't until years later when I was watching something or heard some bad news or something, I knew I should have been upset. I knew I should have been crying. Someone passed, whatever it was, I couldn't remember, but I was sitting there on the couch and I was just so frustrated that I couldn't let my emotions out, and I wanted to. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with the emotions that I just was presented. I knew I was frustrated because of whatever just happened. I was upset because of whatever just happened, but I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't process it. I couldn't let those emotions out, and it just kept building and building. I just got frustrated and frustrated because I knew the right thing to do was to cry or to feel whatever feelings that was happening at that time. And that's when I realized I needed to make some changes. And one of the first things I started doing, and you guys already know that I like to talk. You gotta talk these things through, right? That's the first step, is talking about your stuff. It helps to get that stuff off your chest. But then later on, instead of stopping whatever emotions that I was used to stopping, let's say I wanted to cry, and I used to shut myself off from doing that. Instead of shut myself off, I would just let it happen. And I know, man, like, we're supposed to be macho men. We're supposed to be these alpha males. We're supposed to be strong people in our culture, in our society, and people depend on us. But man, if you can't do these emotions when they come to you, when you experience them, then you're no good to nobody. So instead of becoming a shallow person, instead of allowing yourself to get numb, actually feel what's going on. Actually be present at the time. And if you need to get those emotions out, let it happen, dude. Because it gets worse when you suppress it. And I tell this to everyone, one of my favorite things is, it's going to come out one way or another. It's either going to come out by you talking about it and processing it and actually feeling your emotions, and if you need to cry, cry, or it's going to come out in PTSD, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, because you suppressed it for so long that your body, that's the only way it knows how to deal with it. If it's not going to come out by you talking voluntarily, it's going to come out involuntarily, and it's not going to be in ways that you want. So just remember, man, you're not alone in these fights. A lot of men, women feel the exact same way. And just reach out to people, and you'll be surprised how many other people are going through what you're going through. So good luck, man.